Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Yasoda Nandana Rajajana Gandana Yamuna Tira Panachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Yasoda Nandana Rajajana Gandana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Panachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Yasoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Panachari Yamuna Tira Panachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Yasoda Nandana Rajajana Gandana Yamuna Tira Panachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Yasoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasoda Ranjana Yamuna Tira Panachari Yamuna Tira Panachari Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parabhajakacharya Ostatiras at the Śrī-śuka, His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parabhajakacharya Ostatiras at the Śrī-śuka, His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada Ki Ananta Gaudi Vaishnavinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Shri Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vas Adi Gaur Bhaktivinda Ki Gaur Nitai Ki Krishna Balaram Ki Radha Sundar Ki Krishna Balaram Mandir Ki Srimad Bhagavatam Class Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. So it's hard for me to figure out what time it is. I got here about a day and a half ago. So it's still yesterday in America and it's nighttime. So I'll try not to fall asleep during the lecture. But we'll read something exciting. Let's see, what should we read on today? Maybe we should pick like the 10th canto. Is that good? 84th chapter. How about verse 27 through 29? Can they put that on the board quickly? How about that? It's already there. All right. First we will say the invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we will repeat text 27, and then we will read the next two verses and we'll discuss things about this. Remember, this is the sages' teachings at Kurukshetra. What? That is 27. Does everyone repeat? Śrī-śuka, uvāca, iti, anujñāpya, dāśārhaṁ, dhṛtarāṣṭram, yudhiṣṭhiram, rājarṣe, svāśramān, gantuṁ, munayo, dadhire, manaḥ, śrī-śuka uvāca, iti anujñāpya dāśārhaṁ, dhṛtarāṣṭram yudhiṣṭhiram, rājarṣe svāśramān gantum, munayo dadhire manaḥ, śrī-śuka uvāca, iti anujñāpya dāśārhaṁ, dhṛtarāṣṭram yudhiṣṭhiram, rājarṣe svāśramān gantum, munayo dadhire manaḥ, śrī-śuka uvāca, iti anujñāpya dāśārhaṁ, dhṛtarāṣṭram yudhiṣṭhiram, rājarṣe svāśramān gantum, munayo dadhire manaḥ. Repeat. Uvāca,
anujñāpya dāśārhaṁ, dhṛtarāṣṭram yudhiṣṭhiram, rājarṣe svāśramān gantum, munayo dadhire manaḥ.
You read them. It's amazing, the magic here. I was just mentally projecting. It was time for the ladies to start, and they started. It didn't even have to say it. That happens here a lot, you know. Like I think about a number for the shoes, he usually puts it there. So Krishna sees everything here. He sees it everywhere, but it's special here. Okay? So, śrī-śuka uvāca. Śukadeva Gosvāmī said, Iti, thus, speaking, anujñāpya, taking permission to leave, dāśārhaṁ, of Lord Kṛṣṇa, the descendant of Mahārāja Daśārha, dhṛtarāṣṭram, of Dhṛtarāṣṭra, Yudhiṣṭhiram, of Yudhiṣṭhira, rāja, among kings, rājarṣe, O sage, svā, their own, āśram, to the hermitage, gantum, to going, munayo, the sages, dadhire, turned, manaḥ, their minds. Translation. Śukadeva Gosvāmī said, having thus spoken, O wise king, the sages then took leave of Lord Dāśārha, dhṛtarāṣṭra and Yudhiṣṭhira, and prepared to depart for āśramas. Let's repeat it. Śukadeva Gosvāmī said, having thus spoken, O wise king, the sages then took leave of Lord Dāśārha, dhṛtarāṣṭra and Yudhiṣṭhira, and prepared to depart for their āśramas. So I will read text 28 and 29. Tad vikshatan upavraja vasudevo mahayasye pranamya kopasangriya padesheram suyantriyaha. Tat, this, viksha, seeing, tam, then, upavraja, approaching, Vasudev, Maha, great, Yasya, whose fame, Pranamya, bowing down, Cha, and, Upasangriyaha, taking hold of their feet, Babasya. He said, Idam, this, Su, very, Yantriyaha, carefully composed. Translation. Seeing that they were about to leave, the renowned Vasudeva approached the sages. After bowing down to them and touching their feet, he spoke to them with carefully chosen words. Okay, we'll repeat that too. Have to hold the book close because of jet lag, the words are moving around a little here. Seeing that they were about to leave, the renowned Vasudeva approached the sages. After bowing down to them and touching their feet, he spoke to them with carefully chosen words. Good idea to have carefully chosen words. Not everyone does that, do they? Text 29. Shri Vasudeva uvāca Namo Vasarvadevabhya Rishaya Shrotam Arhata Karmana Karma Nirharo Yatha Svanastad Uchatam. Translation. Sri Vasudeva said, obeisances to you, the residents of all the demigods. Please hear, O sages. Kindly tell us how the reactions of one's work can be counteracted by further work. Repeat this. Sri Vasudeva said, obeisances to you, the residents of all the demigods. Please hear this, O sages. Kindly tell us how the reactions of one's work can be counteracted by further work. Purport by the followers of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Here Vasudeva addresses the sages as the residences of all the demigods. His statement is confirmed in the authoritative Shruti mantras which declare Yavatir vai devatastha sarva veda vidi brahmane vasanti. Whatever demigods exist, all reside in the Brahman who know the Vedas. Interesting point here. One may wonder at this point, and you see many people in India don't take the sages so serious. They think, well, after all, more close. Okay, I'll speak closer so I don't have to speak as loud. Is that good there? Okay, we'll go from there. So they think, what is the need? I can go to a demigod temple. I can see the forms of the devas there. I can go take a bath in the holy river. I can learn to do all the rituals just exactly the way that they're supposed to be done. And I can dress in just the proper clothing so that I look like the proper so-called Hindu. And is there a need for these sages? One may wonder, why is Vasudeva exalting the sages so much? After all, isn't he the father of Krishna? Could he easily say, I don't need anybody else, I'm the father of Krishna? But would this be the good example to set? One may even think, well, why do I need the sages? We already have the teachings in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says in the 7th chapter that this divine energy of mind consisting of the 3 modes of nature is difficult to transcend. But if someone surrenders to me, he crosses it easily. So isn't that all one needs to know? Why do we need the sages then? Then he says things such as in the 10th chapter, to those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they come to me. That seems to cover it. Krishna even says in the 4th chapter, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti takvataha takvadeha punar janma nayati mam eti. So Arjuna, one who knows the nature of my appearance and activities, does not upon leaving this body take his birth in the material world, but returns to my abode. And later on in the 18th chapter, Krishna says, Sarvadharman parityajya mam ekam saranam vraja aham tvam sarvapapebhyo mukshayashami masuchaha, that give up all varieties of religion and just surrender to me, you'll have nothing to fear. So people may conclude that there is really no need for sages. One can just follow the process on his own. We'll get into a little bit of what Krishna said in this chapter, but something else in Bhagavad Gita Krishna says reconciles this. I create the doubt first because you find many people think this. Well, why do I have to go listen to Bhagavatam? I'll go take a bath in the river. I'll go see the demigods. I'll go visit all the places of pilgrimage. And I don't really need much else. But Krishna gives us the real understanding, which is understood from this point. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, our Prabhupada's guru, gave a lecture on Vedanta, its mortology and ontology. Mortology means the form. Ontology is the content. So many people know how to get the form just right. You could put me in a cricket uniform. You could even put one of the famous person's numbers on my back. I don't know what numbers the famous people have. Probably everybody does, right? But I don't know them. But if I had that and I stand out on the bat with the perfectly pressed uniform, I'm ready to play cricket, aren't I? Form looks good. But how about the content? I have no idea what to do. I think you hit a ball somewhere. but I'm not sure exactly where. So the form might be good. And quite often people do this. We want to do the rituals perfect. We want to look just right, be born in the right family. But what about the content? To get these teachings of Bhagavad Gita, it's all well to know that if we worship Krishna with constant love, but how do we get that? We surrender everything to Krishna, but how do we get inspired to do that? Krishna explains this in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the 34th verse, which shows us our real key to get the content of the spiritual understanding, not the form. Form may be okay, but the content is important. Krishna says, Tat vidi pariprashnena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam gnanivas tat vidarshana. That one should approach the self-realized spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, and render service to him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge to you, not because he speculated about it, not because he knows the form, but he has seen the truth. This is a big difference. Somebody who has seen Krishna, he is going to be able to give you and inspire this more than someone who is just talking from a concept. This is why many of us lost interest in Western religion. Christ may have had good things to teach to people, but when someone is just giving ideas and really doesn't know the content of love of God, it isn't that inspiring. Just like when I tell you about cricket, it doesn't inspire you to play because I have no idea. So finding someone like this is the most important. Sometimes people think, well, how can you know? You came from America. But let's say I came from America and Sachin Tendulkar said he was going to dedicate his life to teach me how to play cricket. Would I be better than any Indian? Did it matter I wasn't born in India? Doesn't. So if we meet the Mahabhagavata, even if we weren't born in the right family, there's many samskaras to do. But the most important samskaras are what we receive at the time of initiation, where we are connected with the pure devotee, someone who sees Krishna. In this verse, it is of course not saying that we should have blind faith. We should inquire and do service. But we also don't have blind doubt. Many people think, well, I don't believe it no matter what. We have to be willing to inquire and find that kind of person. Some people say, well, nobody really knows, but that's because they've never met anybody that knows. People who haven't seen something before don't believe it's possible. I remember here in the early 70s, I told some of the Vrindavan kids that worked in the stores that in America we have a road called a freeway. And on this freeway you drive 100 kilometers an hour. They don't have animals or cross traffic. The one called for his friends. He said, listen to the story this American made up. Because now you have the Jamuna Expressway. You have roads like this, correct? But back then they didn't have it. They didn't even believe it. They kept telling me, admit you made it up. Just admit it. They would not believe it was true because they hadn't seen it. And if I haven't seen something, that means it doesn't exist, correct? No, that doesn't mean that. It just means I haven't seen it. So this is the point that we get. Lord Kṛṣṇa even talks about it in this chapter. He says that people who go to take a bath in the holy river and they don't go to visit the Mahabhagavatas to understand the science of Krishna, they're like the most foolish animal, which is called an ass. If someone calls you an ass, that's not a compliment, is it? Don't say, oh, thank you. It's not an endearing term. And he says that sinful people and envious people, they have a hard time being purified. But if they approach a Mahabhagavata, they can become purified. So he's stating the importance of this, That people who think just by visiting the holy places that they can be freed of material reactions and understand Krishna, it won't work. But if they meet a pure devotee, then they will be able to understand the nature of this science. And that is why people from America became inspired. We saw that Srila Prabhupada was not just discussing a concept, but he was living this, and he knew this. And even people who had just a little association. I remember we had a humanities class in high school, and there was 14 people in the class, and 11 were vegetarians. So my friend Bob Morrow, who became Bhadrayanarayan Swami, he and I were telling the teacher, because it was a philosophy class, about Srila Prabhupada in LA. So we took a field trip. On the Sunday, the class went to see Prabhupada. My mother also went. And so the whole week, we discussed the experience with Prabhupada. And people were enlivened because that minute of association of them, you get the understanding. Just like if you hadn't seen electricity, you may not believe it. But if you stick your finger in the socket, will you believe it? You will believe it. You will have an electric experience. And if I grab onto you, I get the same experience. So the same way, if we come in contact with someone having this experience, we get the same experience. Try that with the spiritual person, not with the electric. I saw that someone had touched like a metal and they were shaking and the guy kicked him off. If you grab him, you may get electrocuted. But just by coming close to someone, like someone has a disease, get close to them, you can get the disease also. So we want the disease of Krishna consciousness. We see that people who associate with Prabhupada by going to LA, I was inspired to want to take part with this. And even though I was in high school, I was following the program. And when it came time to finish high school, I went to Europe and I stayed in the Paris temple. Then one day it was freezing cold and we had no heat or electricity, and the brahmachari is opening the windows, letting the snow in. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Set in austerity." And I thought, isn't it austere enough that it's snowing and we don't have heat? So I said, "Krishna, I'll make you a deal. If you get me out of this cold, I promise never ever to complain about heat, ever." So 3 days later, a letter came from Prabhupada saying, "Please send 3 devotees to India." So we were off in the plane. We took the DC-3. That's not even a propeller jet. It's just a propeller plane. And it stopped in about 8 places on the way. But we got to Delhi and took the train to Mumbai. And there was Prabhupada. And what was interesting was that my beads had already been sent to India. And when I got there, Prabhupada had already chanted on them. So we got there on the 27th of March. Myself and a French devotee who became Darsha, and Pantra Davida, who got initiated. So they said there would be initiation on Monday and we could take part. And Prabhupada would chant on our beads. And I thought, wow, Prabhupada will chant on my beads twice. So it was amazing. As we're doing the ceremony, the other people initiated were Vardhan, Mahamsa, Vegavan, Padmavati, myself, and Darsha, and Pantra Davida. And all of a sudden, Prabhupada stops. He tells Guru Das, "Go get that Western yogi out in the crowd." And there's thousands of people, but there's no Western person. I mean, what is Prabhupada talking about? Guru Das says, "There's no Western yogi." Prabhupada says, "Just go back there." He's back there. Be like if I was saying, "Open the door for someone," but they're not here. And then a couple minutes later, the cloud cleared, and there was a yogi with matted hair. Prabhupada said, "See there?" And I'm thinking, this is interesting. So I say, "Answer the phone. Your friend is calling," and then it is them. It's like Prabhupada was seeing what was going to happen before it happened. So this is the interesting way associating with Prabhupada. And I saw this even with other people. That my mother was, they needed someone to write the book trust. And my mother had been a trust attorney for 27 years. She went to Stanford at 16 and came away with a law degree at 21 and worked with my grandfather in the trust law. So she talks about it. I put the video of her. There's a women's conference where it's called Prabhupada's Empowered Daughters. My mother talks about her experience with Prabhupada. And she explained how that even though she had clients who owned the whole city of Placentia, one family owned it, or the Emerald Bay Community Association, where today there's no homes for less than $5 million. Multiply that by 87, that's a lot of rupees. And these are sophisticated people. But she said Prabhupada understood more of what he wanted and what she was doing than anybody else had, which was interesting. You know, because trust law isn't like drunk driving. You need a trust only when you have something important to correct. And it's unfortunate I don't know where they are, because originally my mother sent a draft to Prabhupada and he wrote notes in the different things in the trust. And it's interesting to see how he understood it. You know, most people, especially devotees, don't understand trust law. Some devotees ask me, do you think the Bhaktivedanta book trust should be closed? As it is called the Bhaktivedanta Swami Irrevocable Trust. What part of irrevocable don't you understand? It's a pretty strong term, isn't it? Irrevocable. So Prabhupada understood those. And so my mother talks about how Prabhupada understood what he wanted, but how he was so gracious with her. And so it inspired her to come visit me in Vrindavan. First, she came to Mumbai, and we came to Vrindavan, and we went to different temples here. Not to this one, it wasn't here. Only to Radha Damodar was the first one we went to, because a couple devotees were staying there. And see, he knew just what was on my mind. And we went to Radha Govinda, and we went to a few others. This was like 1971. But it was great to have my mother come and take me to Vrindavan. So at the end of my mother's days, it's interesting because this shows how the words of Prabhupada's books, because today maybe we can't get in touch with Prabhupada personally. But there are lectures available on many sources. They have them in the little box. Some people hear them on the internet. Some people even have them on tapes and even records. And we can hear the tapes of Prabhupada. And when I would do the Mangal Artik in Mumbai, I'd wake up in the morning and Prabhupada was working very hard on the 7th canto of Bhagavatam. And when I would do the Artik, he would come out, I would hand him the flower directly. And at noontime, I would go in to bring Prabhupada his plates, and I would put away, he had the Sanskrit commentaries by Jiva Gosvāmī, Sridhar Swami, Jiva Gosvāmī, and Bhaktisiddhanta. And I would put these all away, and I would give Prabhupada his plate. Then I would go out, and myself and another devotee would serve the other devotees. And I'd come back and get the plate. And it was an amazing experience, because I knew there's no secrets from this person. I felt like a fishing bowl, there's nowhere to hide. So I would get the plate, and Jamuna would cook for the deities and make a big plate. Then she would make a huge plate for Prabhupada, which was big enough for like 3 people. So I would go and clear that plate, and all the devotees had gone. So I would clear the plate, clean Prabhupada's plate, and for about 2.5 months, what I ate for lunch was what Jamuna had cooked for the deities and what Prabhupada left over. But there was a huge amount, there was more than plenty there. So we can still get those teachings that Prabhupada has put. He says his devotional ecstasies are in the book. I could hear him translating through the wall. Today you can actually read the words. And people get things from these. The teachings of Lord Kṛṣṇa and Bhagavad Gita make sense. You see, I saw the advertising for lipstick. It said infallible. Obviously get from Prabhupada's books. In the general word, people don't use that word, do they? But it's a pretty strong descriptive word. Lipstick, of course, can't be infallible. But it's such a strong descriptive word, they decided to use it. And some of the concepts that we have, the austerity of speech. Do you know that the Rotary Club saw that and decided to make that their motto? I mean, it's a pretty good motto for speech. Speech should be truthful, pleasing, beneficial, not agitating to others, and based on knowledge. They use that. It amazes me many devotees don't use that. It should be those things before I speak. Shouldn't it be truthful and beneficial and not agitating to others? Like it said here, to think carefully about what we say. So in my mother's end days, I would read her the stories from the Krishna book. And we read about Indra bringing the rain to Vrindavan. So because she'd had 2 strokes, they sent someone from the hospice group. And the woman asked, my mother asked the woman, "Are you an attorney?" And the woman said, "No, why?" She says, "I need an attorney to go to the courthouse and file a claim against Indra to cease and desist with the rain. And then I need to file a property damage claim against Indra on behalf of the residents of Vrindavan." So even though she wasn't totally mentally there, still the things come through and had some effect. So then the caregiver looks up in the corner. My mother's looking in the corner and talking. And the caregiver said, "Look, someone's here. Who's here?" My mother said, "Prabhupada's here. Prabhupada saved me." So just from getting to meet with her, with Prabhupada on a couple occasions for about an hour to discuss the intricacies of it, she is able to get that understanding. My mother was a very genuine person, but she was tough. Prabhupada told her she was a Kshatriya. One person had left the movement afterwards and came to my mother and said, "I left the movement because I thought Prabhupada was wrong about not wanting to centralize everything." And my mother said, "No, that was the correct way to do it, that. You should listen to your spiritual master and to the attorney because they both know more than you do." So what a way of nailing it down. Imagine you think you know more about law than the spiritual master or the attorney. But so we have to be very careful in that. And that's why Vasudeva here, he's the father of Krishna. He could say, "Hey, I don't need these sages." But instead, he's exalting these sages, and showing how important they are. Because these are the ones who can help us understand what Krishna really is. People had read Bhagavad Gita before or understood it from a basic idea, but unless it's given by a devotee, you won't understand it. How would I understand cricket better? By taking a course on the history of cricket, or going to someone like Tendulkar and being trained exactly how to play, right? Someone who actually knows it. So we get this benefit. Doesn't matter where we're born. We can be born in the right place, but if we don't benefit from it, it doesn't do us any good. We can be born somewhere else and we can get a book and we can understand about Krishna and we can give this to other people because people read them. I remember I was in Russia and I was trying to study some Russian, of which the woman had a book stand that had the Nectar Devotion. And I read the thing in Russian. I said, "What does that mean?" And the person wasn't devotion. That means that if you depend on Krishna, your life is perfect and you don't have any worries. She read it. It's right there. You can understand it. It's perfectly good instruction, isn't it? I may not be an electrical engineer, but if you give me instructions on where to put the socket in, then I can be connected. And we may not be like Prabhupada, but we can have an example to show in that. I found that Shruti Kirti said that I'd say something about South Africa, so I'll say it. I went with the Swami to South Africa when I was 19, and Prabhupada talks about us in the Nectar of Devotion lectures. But we're maybe 20 kilometers from any neighbors and maybe 3,000 kilometers from any devotees. And I wake up one morning and there's a note from the Swami that says, "Dear Kshudy, decided to split." So I turned the page over. I looked for the second page. I couldn't believe this was my explanation. Decided to split. And I thought, I'm here all alone. I have to come up with some plan. So I thought, well, I don't want to make him look any worse, but I don't want to hide it, so I'll just write to Prabhupada what happened. And back in those days, we would take, like there was the aerograms, so I'd put a carbon copy and sent one copy to Brahmananda in Nairobi and one to Kurunda in Los Angeles, and typed them and sent them, and wondered how long it would take to get a response. It's just me, one kid in South Africa. These people are busy, especially Prabhupada. He couldn't be concerned with me. He's got books to translate and people with all kinds of problems. Do devotees have problems? Yes. So I sent them off, and very quickly the one came back from Prabhupada. Later Shyamachandra explained why he used to open up all the letters and see what was important. And he said, Prabhupada, a letter just came from Kshudy Das, and he's in South Africa. And I'd written to Prabhupada that even though I'm in debt, I need to order more Gitas, because I'll tell people they can't have the Gitas unless they buy the whole set. So I had like two sets, the $35 set and the $45 set, right? So I showed the things, I give them the choice. You want the $45 set or the $35 set? So, and I said I would make incense and do other things to try to pay off the debt first, that I would make some context, but I wanted to make sure this debt was paid, so that if either the people in the country or the government killed me, which they were trying to, or I get deported, that at least the books will be paid for. So Shyamachandra said Prabhupada's eyes got really big and said, we'll immediately dictate a letter, you immediately type it and immediately take it to the post office. So that's why it got back so quick. So I wonder if I'm in trouble because of all the decisions that I had to make. But there was no one to ask. I didn't even have neighbors to ask. So I opened the letter, and we see the way that Prabhupada dealt with things. It started out that I'm very much pleased at the responsibility you've taken to spread Krishna consciousness in South Africa at such a young age. So I was pretty happy with that. I said, this means I'm not in trouble. And he said that somehow you are left alone. So I was given the nickname All Alone, because I was left all alone. And now if I'm all alone with no wife and no family with me, and Prabhupada said I was left all alone by Krishna's arrangement, just like Narada Muni, and he became one of our greatest devotees. And he said, I'm praying to Krishna that you'll have the strength and enthusiasm to carry this out. So they quite often say it's not who you are, but who you know. So if you know the pure devotee and he's praying to Krishna that you'll have the strength, that makes you pretty well connected. But we're all pretty well connected. The powerhouse is there. We just have to plug ourselves in. Any one of us can connect to that mercy. And any one of us can pull the fan out, it stops going. No matter how good a fan it is, you pull the plug out, it stops going. You can brag about what a great fan it is, but if it's not connected, it doesn't go. So, Prabhupada had said he was praying to Krishna and have the strength and enthusiasm, which I didn't have the strength. I was just a kid, and there was all kinds of things against me. But somehow I was able to collect enough to pay off that debt. And Prabhupada was concerned. We see that the older devotees are so concerned about other devotees. They got this from Prabhupada, because Prabhupada asked Brahmananda to come down and help me out. So Brahmananda, out of his devotion to Prabhupada and desire to help me in Prabhupada's service, he wrote, I'm leaving Nairobi and bringing the Sankirtan safari to you. The next letter he was in Mombasa, which was on the coast in Kenya, and then he was a little farther south. Next letter, we didn't use emails and phones then, so you waited for a letter. He was in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, and then he said he was in Malawi. He would go to Rhodesia and then come across. He didn't make it. But South Africa was controlled by the whites then, so they didn't let him in the country. And they put in his passport he'd never be allowed back in the country. So he didn't get to come. So then Prabhupada asked a boy named Dhṛtarāṣṭra to come. Say, Dhṛtarāṣṭra means hard to see or hard to find. Isn't this kind of a, does that mean he'll disappear too? Guess what he did? He disappeared too. So then Prabhupada had asked Pushta Krishna Swami to come to help me out. So when the security police caught up with me, I bought a couple days by telling them my visa was not here. It was coming in 3 days. So I called up Pushta Krishna and told him, you got to get here tomorrow. He showed up the next day. So this is the kind of devotion we had. The Prabhupada didn't dally around and do it later. Even though Prabhupada was busy with books and problems and devotees, if something was important and I was there alone, I knew I had to stay, because if I left also, people would think, you want to go to this temple now? Because there's $18,000 debt in books, because if I left, who knows what would happen to the books. There was thieves and government trouble and all kinds of stuff. So no one would want to go then, but it created an urgency that Prabhupada did not want me there alone. So he kept trying to get people to come and help me out. And we should think of it in that way. Prabhupada told Gargamuni in Los Angeles, he says, why are you keeping so many men here? Send some to other places. So he sent Durlab to Laguna Beach, and Bhaktidas to San Diego, and Ravati Nandan went to Santa Barbara, and Nalini Kanta went to Phoenix, and they went to all these places to start other temples. We're interested in helping other devotees out. We see this is how Prabhupada was. Even when Prabhupada was on the deathbed, he asked people, you have a nice place to stay, and did you get good prasad? True? He was concerned about others, even though he was in great pain. But he was more concerned about the others. So maybe we can't have the same degree. I know I'm an ocean of faults, but if I can just try to get Prabhupada to people, if we get a book into someone's hands, they may read this later. I know people who've done that. Says, yeah, I read that book and thought I could help my children later. Because you can't argue with the book. The book has it and you can get lots of them out, and not everybody reads them. But sometimes people leave them somewhere and someone else will pick it up and read it. And so we have to try to get this consciousness out to other people to realize that it's the content of the bhakti. Someone who has the bhakti, not someone who just has the form. Not putting me out on the cricket field with the proper bat and the proper uniform, with no idea of what to do. We have to have the content of Krishna consciousness, which means that's why we talk more about what we do than what we believe. You know, we can believe in Krishna, we can believe in 1 billion rupees, we can believe in 50-carat diamonds, but believing in something and doing something about it is something different. So we have a regulative process to get there. We chant on beads, and these aren't things we made up. You know, Christian people chant on beads, but it's all because St. Francis of Assisi went to Egypt, and the Egyptian Marmaluke was chanting on beads, so he thought we'd try this. Why did we chant on beads? Yes, but where is it mentioned? Krishna mentions it in Gita, and the Goswamis did it. Krishna says, of sacrifices, I'm the chanting of the holy names, japa. And then the Goswamis, the great devotees, followed it. We didn't get it from the Marmaluke of Egypt, right? No. We got it from what Krishna says. We offer food. Krishna says, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhakta prayachati, to offer me a leaf of fruit, a flower of water, with love and devotion, and I accept it. So we do that. And this whole thing comes out of understanding, as Vasudeva was doing here. Instead of thinking, hey, I'm the father of Krishna, I don't need anybody else. Instead, we should be respecting others. I always tell people when I go to different temples, I try to spice things up. Not like the chili powder, but turmeric, they say, is very good for you. But if you add just a little bit of pepper to it, it makes it 20 times as potent. So instead of trying to find fault, some people find fault with everything. It's amazing what people can find fault with. But I would rather see what devotees are already doing and encourage them to keep doing it, or maybe add something to it that helps the process a little better, and to share different things that people have done in different parts of the world. Not that they make up something new, but a different way of how to present things to people in a way that they want it. And part of it is, like Prabhupada was giving it to us for our benefit, when we try to force things on people because it's something we want them to do. But instead, if we take Prabhupada's mood and try to benedict the whole world, he even says it in the beginning, he didn't introduce the regulative principles. Of course, they're important for initiation later on, but somebody comes for the first time, you get them started. He used the saying which was brilliant, which was you go in like a needle and come out like a plow. You want to get someone started. You don't want to give them so much. Prabhupada even say you don't have to come and do what we do or follow. The first time you just come and watch what we do. Just watch it. You make it easy for them to come. And then you explain to people what we do, because bhakti is something that has to come out of love and devotion. We don't force people to do it. We don't lock the door. And especially in the West, I try to myself and show other people how to greet people when they come to a temple. Because people feel a little insecure coming to a religious place. And that isn't our fault, it's how other institutions are. Some of them are like only from people who are already in that group, or it's a group based on some bodily distinction, and they look at you like, what are you doing here? You're not a part of our group. And others, they'll talk to you in the foyer, the entrance, for 5 minutes, and say, now you want to join this church? So people come to a temple or a church, they're afraid of both being excluded and being included. But Prabhupada said, just come and watch what we do. Take as much or as little as you want. So by us getting what we can from the pure devotee and passing that on to others, this is what Vasudeva is showing here by honoring the sages. Because by honoring the sages, we can come to understand something about Krishna's real nature. You look at this position, they're on the field of Kurukshetra. You know, on this field, the residents of Vrindavan came to meet the residents of Dwarka. And the queens of Dwarka asked Rohini, because she was in both Vrindavan and Dwarka, they said, what is it about Vrindavan? Krishna cries in the night about Vrindavan and wants to go there. What is it? She says, well, I'll tell you, but you have to keep Krishna, Balaram, and Subhadra away, because they'll go into such ecstasy. So they went to a special room, and she was telling about the special pastimes of Vrindavan. And Krishna and Balaram and Subhadra came, and they heard this, and they went into such ecstasy that their legs and arms went inside their body, and their eyes got really huge. What form is this? Jagannath. So this is the perfect form to take Krishna from Kurukshetra back to Vrindavan, because this is Krishna when he's in Kurukshetra, but he's feeling the ecstasy of Vrindavan. And to really understand this mood is, of course, understood through the great devotees. Lord Chaitanya was talking the verses about Rathayatra, about being by the bank of the river. People didn't understand this much. And then he found a poem written at Rupa Goswami's thatched hut. And Chaitanya read it and said, you have understood my mood. And the mood was Radharani saying that I met my old and dear friend Krishna on the field of Kurukshetra. He is the same Krishna, and I am the same Radharani. And it is very wonderful. But I still wish to be by the bank of the Yamuna River, hearing Krishna play that sweet fifth note on his flute within that forest of Vrindavan. So without the understanding of the pure devotees, like the 6 Goswamis and Srila Prabhupada, we don't understand what this meaning is. But through them we can understand how special it is to have Krishna in Vrindavan, because we have our own sage, Srila Prabhupada, who is the Tattvadarshan, who sees Krishna. And through that we can understand these pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan and enter into those pastimes and go back to the spiritual world. But it takes being connected to someone who already knows that. Because we won't get very far speculating ourselves, and we won't get very far going to someone else who speculates, or someone who knows the rituals but doesn't know the meaning. So we should be grateful for the fact that we have been connected to the pure devotee. And if you can find a book somewhere, read these books and then practice it in your life. Any questions or comments? Yes. Take the mic too.
Thank you for your class, Prabhu. So you mentioned about Narada Muni, how he achieved perfection simply by serving the Mahabhagavatas, although he didn't come from a big position or anything.
Yes.
So Srila Prabhupada introduced deity worship and also Guru Puja for our benefit, and Prabhupada was very conscientious of who is actually attending the programs and if the deity worship's going nicely, if the Guru Puja is going nicely, because we seem to have a bit of a cheating mentality. We would think that, okay, I've done that 100 times, that's not a big deal. But if Prabhupada's physically here, then everyone would be totally focused and excited and jumping up and down. So how do we continue to understand that the deity is not just made of stone and wood and Prabhupada it's just a little statue, it's not really Prabhupada. So how do we maintain the importance of not cutting corners and actually attending the programs? Because Prabhupada once gave one of his disciples Shalagram Shila, and then he said, well, where's so-and-so? I think it was the scholar. He said, oh, he's worshiping his Shalagram. He said, no, not now, Guru Puja, in class also. So these things, maybe it's just for the neophytes who should come to class and Guru Puja and deity worship. What do you think?
Well, it is part of form, but we get the content, because when we come to this, we are seeing the deity of Krishna, and we're understanding the science of Krishna, and we're doing it with the group. And we should be grateful, because sometimes some of us are in places where there isn't a temple, and we don't get to go to a Guru Puja. So when we have it, we should be grateful that it's performed. In old days, we had to go somewhere and move around to get a temple established. And we should be grateful for the fact that here, we just all I have to do is come in that door and Mangalartika, and they open the curtain. All I have to do is get there. It was a little harder this morning because there was a big crowd out on the road for some reason. But the temple is there. What was it?
Premananda.
Premananda, okay. So, but it's here, so we should be grateful. Someone said, how long do I have to keep going to Bhagavatam class? You only have to go until you want to. Because when we realize what's going on and the benefit of it, then we will want to come. And if we miss out on it, we may miss out on some very important points. I know one devotee was once going through a big dilemma, and he left the class early, and exactly what he needed to hear was told, but he wasn't there for it. So we should appreciate it. It's there. After all, it's not. If we have other things to take care of, then we can do them later in the day. I hope it was all right. I'm still a little trying to adjust to the time by jet lag.
But also the order of the Guru as well, that
Yes.
Srila Prabhupada is ordering that you must attend these programs, you know?
Yes. Then we feel good in that because we're pleasing him. And we please ourselves in the process. No comment?
No comment? Is Prabhupada strict or not?
I never missed one class because he made sure that we were all there. Everyone that traveled with him had to go to the classes every day. And Mangal Artik every morning. If we didn't go to Mangal Artik, he would chastise us. So he expected everyone to follow his instructions. Everyone.
Okay, we made our point.
Yes.
Okay. Someone else?
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
So to consider to be one as a disciple means he should be disciplined. This is where the disciple comes from. And if one is concocting his own program, not according to our founder Acharya, then he is not a disciple.
How do you mean by concocting a program?
Excuse me?
How do you mean by concocting a program?
Let me go on parikrama during the morning program, and I'll miss the Guru Puja or greeting of the deities. Let me read Acharya's books, but not understanding Srila Prabhupada's books first.
Yes.
Because to read the Acharya's books, you need guides. You need an advanced devotee to explain them. Otherwise, we will concoct our own understanding, and being conditioned soul still, we will not reach that far.
Yeah, it's amazing. Some people say Prabhupada doesn't have Krishna's Leela in there, but we read the Krishna book, and there's a whole lot in Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's already a lot that's there. That we should follow that. We try to do something different.
Yes, Prabhupada says like a sandwich program, morning program,
yes.
Do some practical seva during the day, and in the evening program, attend Bhagavad Gita and Gora Artik. Not that, I'll just stay in my room or go somewhere else in solitude.
Yes, very good. Jai. Hare Krishna.